My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content. Hey there, folks. Welcome back. Another exciting episode. Today, we've got a special treat. Zooming in from San Diego, California, we got Mr. Desi Arnaz, who is a very, very experienced real estate entrepreneur. He's been in this business for, I believe, coming up on 40 years, Desi, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Ton of experience, especially with landlording, ton of experience with flipping. And then about 10 years ago, he saw the light and he switched gears and he got into note investing. So in addition to being a very, very accomplished real estate entrepreneur, he's a snappy dresser too. So welcome, Mr. Desi Arnaz. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dave. This is snappy dresser. I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, you're looking good, man. I love the hat. Looking sharp. So Desi, give us a quick snapshot, if you will, of what real estate investing looks like for you today. What do you do as of end of September 2024? What does your real estate investing business look like?
Well, my real estate investing business is basically in two phases right now, Dave. Okay. And one is I have a large portfolio of mortgages that I own and all around the country. And I collect mortgage payments rather than rent. Mm-hmm. And that affords me an opportunity also, though, to pick up some properties as well. So I do own some real estate as a result of just foreclosing and winding up with properties, things like that. And then the rest of my portfolio is in building right now. I'm building 1,000 apartments in Florida. We've broken ground on the first phase, which is a total of 300 units for the first phase. And so I'm excited about that too. So that's what's happening for me right now.
Lots of stuff happening for you right now. That's awesome. Congratulations. Well, let's focus today a little bit more on the note side of things, because A, I think that's quite what you're quite well known for. And B, I haven't talked to a note investor for quite some time. So it might be kind of new for some of our listeners and viewers who aren't familiar with that. So maybe give us your definition of note investing. What does that actually mean?
Okay. Well, it's an interesting concept to say investing in notes, because basically what we're buying, when I buy a mortgage note, I'm buying debt. Someone has already signed a contract with a lender, maybe a bank, credit union, whatever, saying that I agree to pay you back money for the next 30 years at 6% interest. And I'll pay you, $1,200 a month, whatever it happens to be. Right. Well, when I step in, I go in to that institution and I buy that paper, then I buy the remaining monthly payments. That's what I'm paying for when I buy a mortgage. These people have so many years left to pay. They're going to pay X amount of dollars over the next 25 years, for example. And I buy that payment stream. So that's what it's about. And I love it because it truly is passive income.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, that's a very, very good explanation. I appreciate that. Now, for folks that aren't really familiar with it, they're thinking, okay, well, I can go and you're buying an existing mortgage. Somebody else, this homeowner has gone to a bank and gotten a mortgage. They've gone somewhere, they've gotten a mortgage. You're buying that mortgage, also known as the note. Mm-hmm. And you're getting that payment instead of the bank. But somebody who's not familiar with this might say, well, that even like if it's a 6% mortgage, that doesn't sound very exciting. If I have to come up with hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy this mortgage just to be making 6%, why don't I just keep my money in the bank? So connect the dots for us, if you would, Des.
Yeah. Yeah. And I 100% agree. I wouldn't be so excited about it if I were earning 6%. But what we do, Dave, is we look at yield, not the coupon rate, right? The coupon rate is the rate that's on the promissory note. We don't care about what that rate is. When I'm going to buy someone's mortgage, I ask myself one question: how much return on my investment do I want to earn? And so based upon that, I plug that into a financial calculator, and I know that I'm going to be buying, and I'm going to stick with one example. I'll be buying 25 years worth of payments of $1,200, and I'm invest. So if I want to earn let's say a 14% return, then what do I need to pay for that note? You see, because if a person owes, let's say $150,000 to Bank of America, and I buy that mortgage from Bank of America, I don't pay $150,000. I pay less. Now, the beautiful thing about that is, let's say I pick it up for 125,000. So I pay $125,000 to buy a $150,000 debt. My $125,000 is earning interest on the entire $150,000 debt. And
Mhm.
that in effect boosts my yield, my personal yield on that investment, so that my money is actually working at a much higher return than what the paperwork actually says.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's kind of, I think it works a lot better if we could actually visually see this, but to keep it, I appreciate you keeping it super simple. The other thing we have to keep in mind is there's a big difference between simple interest and compound interest when you're looking at your yield, right? So if we're thinking, if we're hearing, yeah, it's a 6% mortgage, that doesn't mean 6% simple interest,
That's
right?
right.
That's what we always have to have to remember there. So that really helped simplify that for me, Desi. It's all about starting with, okay, if I'm getting this much revenue per month, how much am I willing to pay for that? Right. So if I want that $1,200 a month, what's the maximum that I want to pay for that to turn into, to convert into a 14, 16, 18% return on
Sure.
investment? That's
Correct.
the idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. So how did you kind of initially come across this? And then also, how do most of the people that are doing this, because I know you teach about this, you train people about this, how are most of the people that are doing this financing these and buying these notes?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I initially came across this investment opportunity on the 4th of July, Dave, 2013. I call it my personal Independence Day because,
What were you?
because
Most people were at a barbecue that day or doing something like that. What were you doing?
well, I was actually up early that day surfing the internet, and my
Okay.
plan was to go to the beach here in San Diego when my wife woke up.
Yeah.
And so I was surfing the internet, and I ran across a guy on the internet talking about investing in mortgage notes. And he claimed that he owned at that time 400 mortgages. I'm sorry, the mortgages on 400 condos in Florida.
Wow.
And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. And as it turns out, he was coming to San Diego the next month in August. And so I enrolled and went into his training. And that's where the light bulb went on, as they say, right?
Yeah.
Hey, this actually makes sense. It's a way for me to get passive income from real estate, secured by real estate, without being the landlord. And I learned there that basically, when you have a rental property that has that when you have a rental property that has a mortgage on it, there are two income streams actually. One is, of course, the rent that the tenant is paying, but the other is that the interest that the investor is paying to the bank.
Hmm.
And so we tend to focus our energy as real estate investors on buying that rent, right? Why not buy the interest stream? And that was for me, an aha moment. And I said, wow, so I can get the cash flow without the headaches. And for me, that was a big deal. And
Very,
so I
very cool.
jumped
No,
in with both feet. I really did. And so the second part of your question is, how do we finance these things?
yeah.
Well, initially, when I found this, Dave, I mean, I'm not proud of this, but I had been beaten up by the 2008 recession, right?
Yeah.
Even though I had done very well prior to that, I had really been destroyed by that recession, and I was kind of like, financially speaking, at the bottom. And so when I initially found out about notes, the way that I did it is I kind of went like a wholesaler. You know how you wholesale real estate? You just
Yep.
find it and you flip it to somebody else.
Yep.
That's what I was doing with notes.
Interesting.
And so I was just flipping the notes to someone else. And then one of my people that I was selling notes to came back to me and said, Desi, said, look, I don't really understand notes that well, but I love investing in them. So why don't we partner and buy a note together? And I said, I appreciate that, but I don't have any money,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And he said, well, you don't need money if you'll manage this thing. I'll put up the money. And so I did my first joint venture, and that's the way we
Nice.
structured it. And
Yeah.
after that, I thought, well, there's got to be other people out there that wouldn't mind, using my skill set to manage it. And they put up the money and they have a nice passive investment too. And so I started my career that way. And
Very cool. That's a creative way to solve a problem and yeah, I really like that, Desi. And if you don't mind sharing, just because I think it's inspirational, what age were you at that time when you were kind of having to rebuild everything and start over again from scratch?
I was 60 years old at
Wow.
that time. Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
71 today. So I was 60
W-
years old. And I honestly, Dave, I was afraid because I didn't know what I
Yeah.
was going to do.
Well, you just got the crap kicked out of you
Yeah,
after
exactly.
30 years of hard work, and
Right.
everything kind of evaporated overnight, as it did for many, many, many other people. And then you're at that age where it's like, geez, I should be retiring at
Right.
this point. I should be kicking back on the beach every day. And now I gotta, yeah, man, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It was a
Yeah.
scary time, but I tell you what,
Yeah.
the notes taught me something that I really didn't understand. And that is that now this is just my take on it. Okay. Other
Yeah.
people could feel differently, but I had been flipping houses before the recession. That was a big deal for me. I was flipping a lot of houses and I owned rental properties too.
Mhm.
Um, but the notes taught me that it's better for me to have passive income than to be earning big chunks of money flipping houses.
Which
Because
is
when I
very
was flipping,
active income. Yeah.
yeah, which is very active. When I was flipping houses, it was always about the next deal.
Mhm.
You got to do another deal. You just have to,
Yeah.
right? But once I started building up a portfolio of mortgage-backed promissory notes, even though I was only taking 30% of the payment and I was giving the investors 70% of the payment.
I was going to ask that. That was going to be my
Yeah,
question. How did you structure the JV?
yeah, that's
Thank
how
you.
we structured it. 70% to them, 30% to me. And if we had to foreclose on a piece of real estate, and let's say there's a windfall profit, which happens in a foreclosure situation, you can
Mhm.
wind up with 20 or 30 or 50,000 bucks. Just here you go.
Yeah.
If there's a windfall profit, the first thing we do is we make our investor whole. Whatever is left, we split 50-50. That's
Fair.
how I structured them.
Super
Okay.
fair. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was super fair, and so do my investor partners. But on average, I was making at that time about 150 bucks per note because they were all small mortgages.
Mhm.
I was making about $150 per month per note, which doesn't seem like much. But when you have, many of them, I
Yeah.
remember when I finally got to the point where I was bringing in $2,000 a month, just passive from that, and I was like,
Yeah.
it just took a burden off me.
Yeah, man.
It's
Yeah.
not enough for me to live on, but it took a burden off my shoulders. And it also showed me that, look, if I can do this for 2,000, all I've got to do is repeat that and I could be at four,
Yeah.
right?
And repeat
And
that again. And then,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that was basically, that was my game plan. Once I figured that out, it's like, okay, so that's all I'm going to do. And so I just started talking to people about mortgage note investing. Most people
Yeah.
say, what?
Yeah.
I don't even know what that is. And so I would educate them. And that kind of led me into having what I have now, which is the Note Investor University. And you can go to noteinvestoruniversity.com to learn about note investing, right? We have a lot of free information right there
Yeah.
for people that want to learn about note investing. And that's what led me there, though, is I was teaching people about a little bit about notes so that they would partner with me
Yeah.
on the notes that I wanted to buy. So,
Smart. Smart. So
so
how long did it take you, Desi, to kind of ramp things up and create a portfolio of these joint venture notes that really paid all the bills and
yeah,
what did that
I
look
got,
like?
it took me about 2 years to get
Yeah.
to $2,000 a
Mm.
month, right? But then to get to $8,000 a month took less than a year from there. It's
Once you
like,
had that proof of concept
yeah,
that it
once
was,
I had the proof of concept, I remember sitting at the beach with my granddaughter. This was 2 years into this, right?
yeah.
She didn't care, but I said, "Do you know I'm making $2,000 a month passive income?" And my granddaughter was like,
She's only 3 years old. She
yeah,
doesn't.
she didn't know, but I had to tell somebody, right?
Exactly. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Oh my
Oh man,
God.
well that is a fantastic story. I appreciate you kind of sharing the whole thing there, Desi. That is fantastic. And So what I know you're teaching and training a lot of people about this nowadays. What is your usual recommendation for somebody who's maybe not in the same position you were in, but similar position where they're starting out, they don't have a lot of cash of their own. They
Mhm.
want to get into this. Do you recommend they do something similar and JV with other people
Yeah,
and kind of do
I
that
do.
split? Is that what
I
you
think it's a
recommend?
brilliant way to get started.
Yeah.
I really do. And it's simple and it's very safe for the person that you're joint venturing with because their name actually goes on the legal documents that get recorded in the county. They have a lien against the house.
Mm,
You know what I mean? So even if I drove off a cliff, they don't have to worry.
right.
They're covered. And so um, that's what I recommend. And people like that. They like having that security. They like having knowing that their interest is protected by that real estate.
Mm,
And the only thing that I found to be kind of a little bit of a hassle for some people is they were worried that if I did drive off a cliff, they're like, I don't know what to do. And
mm.
so one of the things that I started doing, and I would recommend this to your audience, is I started giving them something I call the green sheet. And on the green sheet, it says, look, if I fall off the face of the earth,
Yeah.
and you don't know this business, you're a doctor, you're a teacher, you don't know this business. Here are some key contact people that you can
Okay.
contact
Yeah.
to help you out of this. These are people that will either buy the mortgage from you, or here's the attorneys that I work with in the state where the note is located. If you had to foreclose, they'll handle everything, that kind of thing. So I gave them a green sheet with my all my contacts for that asset on it, and that really was kind of like the final piece of the puzzle that made everybody feel like, okay, this is good.
Smart. Yeah. You solve that
Mhm.
problem, right?
Yeah,
That you could solve that concern. So how about from your side? What covers you as the deal maker if your investor's the one, your joint venture partner's the one, their name's on all the legal documentation? How do you make sure that you're not cut out of the deal?
both names are on the legal documentation.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I did is I had an attorney draft. This is after a while I realized we needed to. I don't like my personal name out in the public,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
nobody should, right?
Mhm.
And so I had an attorney draft up a trust
Mm.
that I started using that trust with all of my joint ventures, and so my partners and I would be the beneficiaries of the trust, and the trust would actually buy and own the mortgage.
So you'd have different trusts with different joint venture partners.
Correct.
Got it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's smart.
Yeah.
Very, very well. So worst case scenario, you and the joint venture partner are both on the documentation. How do things get sorted out if they fall off the face of the earth or you fall off the face of the earth? Well, you got the green sheet and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
is it like in the agreement that if that should happen, everything goes over to the other person or how
Yes.
does that work?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it doesn't go to my heirs if something like that happens, or theirs. It reverts to us, right? And
Uh-huh.
they just get their cash out. That's it. If they have cash, they get their cash out.
Got
But
it.
that's it.
Mm-hmm.
But then I take over ownership
So
if something goes wrong on their side.
got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, very, very cool. Thanks for explaining that, Desi. So
Yeah.
sounds like you've had a lot of fun with that. You learned a lot of hard lessons going through the crisis, the 0809
I sure did.
times, that's for sure. But it can't be all sunshine and flowers with note investing either. There must be a few little downsides there. So what for just to be a little bit objective with this, what are some of
Yeah.
the not so great parts of this
Um,
or potentially not so great parts?
yeah. Well, I mean, I've lost money on a couple of notes, okay,
Mhm.
which not much. I shouldn't say I don't want to make it seem like I went in with, and I didn't lose money for any of my partners, just so you know.
Mhm.
But I've lost money on a couple of notes, and it's because, frankly, I just had not been paying attention.
Mhm.
You need to pay attention to your portfolio. So if I were going to say there's a downside to the mortgage note investing, for me, the biggest single downside is that it's not forever income like rental income. You buy a rental house, it's yours forever. When you
Mhm.
buy a mortgage, it's just yours until the people pay it off. Once it's
Yeah, they
paid
pay it
off,
off. So
yeah.
we think that it's a 25 years left on the mortgage. We got 25 years of
Of
getting that
income.
cash flow, unless they sell the house,
Right. Right.
which happens on average every 4 or 5 years or
That's
something like that.
right.
So is that what you're talking about there? Is it
Yes. Yeah. That is a
getting cashed out
downside.
earlier than you're hoping for sometimes?
Correct. Because I like the cash flow. You
Yeah.
know, and when they cash me out earlier, though, here's what does happen when they cash me out earlier. And I'm not trying to bring it back to the rainbows again,
Yeah.
but when they cash me out earlier, remember I said earlier that I buy these notes at a discount. So
Yeah.
if I bought a $150,000 note for 125,000, and then they cash me out in 2 years, maybe they owe me 140,000.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah.
I've made
Because
monthly
it's
payments.
early days in that mortgage and it's
It's
all interest that they're
all
paying.
interest,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, at the back end, when they cash me out earlier, yeah, I get my money back plus another 15,000, plus I've already collected 5 years worth of payments
Well,
or
that
whatever.
helps you buy a little bit of Kleenex to cry over that.
Yeah. And so for me, it's always about I do need to make sure that I keep my portfolio, I manage my portfolio well. And
Yeah.
what I do is I only live on the interest. I never spend the principal,
Hmm.
right? So that is one of the things that requires a little bit of self-discipline. And the reason that you don't want to spend the principal is because if you spend the principal and interest, when they pay you off, you don't have enough money to buy another note,
Yeah.
you know?
That's a really
So
good point, Desi. So you must have some special spreadsheets or something like that that crunch all that number and figure out what it. So what is it? So to translate that for the rest of us, let's say we've bought that note. It's creating $1,200 a month cash flow.
mhm.
It's a relatively new note. We're getting that $150,000 mortgage for 125,000 without getting too into the weeds there. Typically, how much of that cash flow is interest versus principal on your average notes? Just
Mhm.
just to give us
Is
an idea.
more than 90% of it is going to be interest.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So out of that $1,200, I'll probably get $1,100 that I can do whatever I want to do with.
And the other $100 you're putting that aside as your principal for
That's how I
towards
did
your
it
next one.
initially. So just to be completely transparent,
Yeah.
that's how I did it initially. But what I've discovered is that the larger my portfolio got, Dave, I didn't have to worry about it so much because there's always people that are losing their homes. There's always people that are walking away because some people
Mhm.
don't want a foreclosure. They
Yeah.
literally will just sign the house over to me and I can sell that thing and get the profit from it. And so what I found is that there's so much cash flowing all the time,
Mhm.
in and out, all the time, that I don't need to really worry about trying to save just the principal or just the interest. And the other point that I want to make about it is that without sounding glib about it, but there gets to be a point when you continue to build your portfolio that you have far more money than you even need to live on.
Mhm.
It just happens. And then on top of that, 2 or 3 times a year, you'll foreclose on something and you get another 20,000, 50,000, 60,000 just here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just part of it. And that I didn't even know about when I first looked at notes. That wasn't even on my radar. That just started happening after my portfolio got to the point where I had, a decent sized portfolio, meaning more than 30. Then I started realizing, okay, well, some of these are just going to go south. It's just the reality of it,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And when they do, for me, it's a windfall. And so then what I started doing is I started taking those windfalls and paying off my investor partners so that I would own the note without a partner. And
Uh-huh.
now I'm no longer just making $150 a month. Now I've got the whole payment. And that just literally starts to multiply my cash flow too. You
So
see what I mean?
what like are your investor partners, your joint venture partners happy to cash out or is this
They'll
because I'm
usually
sure
come
they're
right back and say, let's do another one,
oh, okay.
you
Yeah.
know. But
Yeah.
I want to own as many free and clear as I can,
Definitely.
just like a landlord, right? I want to own as many of these things free and clear as I can. And so I'll pay them off, and then that makes them really happy. And then they say, okay, let's do another one, and then I'll buy a new one. I typically do a 3-year arrangement with my partners.
Okay.
So even though there might be 25 years left on the mortgage, we agree to be in business for 3 years, and then we assess what we want to do after that. We can
And you have the
extend.
option at those 3 years to buy them out.
Yes.
If you want to, you don't have to.
They can buy me out too. We have that
Yeah.
option in our agreement.
Kind of a shotgun type thing
Yeah,
there, either
sure. You
one.
want to buy me out? That's fine.
Okay.
And so that's how we structured it.
Very, very smart. Just out of curiosity, Desi, now that you've been doing this for 10 years, more than 10
Mhm.
years now, I guess.
Mhm.
What, in your experience, what is the average length of time that you can hold one of these notes before the homeowner sells, or it gets, like, they usually don't go the full 20,
No, they
25
don't.
years. So
They
what's the
don't.
average that you're looking at there?
I'm starting to see pretty good turnover right now in my portfolio.
Mhm.
People are uh, selling now. I don't know what's going on out there in the market in general, but people are selling and paying us off, which is fine, because there's plenty of notes for us to buy. But
Mhm.
I would say probably when people get to be about 10 years into their mortgage, I've always heard, oh, people sell or move or refinance every 5 years. I don't see that.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
seeing they're more like 10 years before they're starting to do something with those mortgages.
Well, that's good to know. So it is longer term, because that was a little concern I had in the back of my head was it is a passive business as long as that note's going and they're paying it. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
passive, but if they
Yeah,
sell it, then you have to go back. It's almost like a flip. You have to go out and
yeah.
find a new
Got
one
to find another
to
one.
do to replace that. But you're saying doesn't happen. You do have some foreclosures every once in a while,
Mhm.
but on average, these are lasting a lot longer than you thought they would.
Yeah, they sure are. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
expecting to see people because oftentimes I'll buy a note where it's already 5 years into the mortgage.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, okay, in the next 2 years or so, on average, they should be paying me off, but I'm not. I've just not experienced that.
Very cool. And as we're kind of wrapping this up, because this is fascinating, Desi, I appreciate you kind of unwrapping things here. Big broad strokes, where are you and your students finding these notes? Where are you buying these notes?
We are at the level now that we buy our notes from large hedge funds.
Hmm.
Hedge funds tend to buy their notes in huge numbers from Fannie Mae, right? So they'll go and they'll buy 1,000 notes from Fannie Mae, and then they will sell off a portion of that acquisition of that. We call it a tape, but a
Yeah.
portion. So they buy 1,000 notes, they might sell off 300 of them. That's where we come in. We don't buy 300 at a time, but we can come in and we can buy a dozen. You know,
As a
that's not.
group, I guess you're talking about there.
No, just
Yourself individually.
nowadays I have the financial ability to do that.
Yeah.
But initially, yes, there'll be several of us and we would pool our money together that we got with our joint venture partners. And we would say, okay, there's a tape that's being offered of 12 notes, and we call it cherry pick. You can pick one and
Okay.
not another. Sometimes they want you to buy the entire tape, but sometimes you can cherry pick. So we said we can cherry pick. And so we would all look at the tape and we would all decide which ones we want to buy. And then we can go right back to the seller of the note and say, okay, we want to buy these six, and we would like to get in one transaction. That way we can get a bigger discount.
Nice.
So that's how we would pool our funds. But these days I don't do that so much. Now what I do is I raise capital in my fund. I have a fund, a $100 million investment fund called the Everly May Capital Group. So I raise the capital in our fund, and then we just go buy as much as we can.
There you go. Yeah, that's you've taken it to the next level, but you just had to start off
Yeah.
doing what you had to do to make it happen, and in a relatively short period of time. Because I mean, I don't know about you, but I look back, 10 years ain't that long ago
It's
anymore.
not that long. It's unbelievable to me the doors that have been opened as a result of this business. And so I try to tell my students, look, you guys, you're at the front end of an investment that most people don't even know about.
Hmm.
And so if you would learn this, as people become aware of this, they like it. Most people that become aware of it, they, even if they don't want to completely switch to it like I did, they'll add some notes into their portfolio anyway, you
Yeah.
know. And I said the problem that people have in the public, Dave, is simple. If they want to buy a piece of real estate, they know who to call. If they want to buy stock, they know who to call. They want to buy a note,
No idea.
no idea.
Yeah.
So if you're the guy that's out there saying, if you want to buy a note, call me, you have no competition. Okay.
Well, first of all, you have to explain what the heck a note is to most people.
Right.
Yeah, like you have to educate lots of people
Correct.
before they got it. Desi, this has been great. I really appreciate you just kind of sharing how things work with us here on the show. If people want to connect with you, they want to find out more about notes, where should
Mhm.
they go? I think you told us already, but tell us again, what's the
Yeah.
best website?
The very best website to reach me on is noteinvestoruniversity.com. Noteinvestoruniversity.com. They can go there and get free information. They can also go there and find a link to my calendar. If they would like to schedule some time to talk with me, I'm happy to speak about this stuff. I love talking about this, as you can tell.
I can tell. Yeah, you
Yeah.
do a great job. You explain it very well. So
Well, thank you.
a lot of people make it a lot more complicated than that. That's for sure. So
Yeah, well,
awesome.
I'm a simple guy.
I don't think so, but you simplify it. So that's great. Desi, thanks again.
All right. Thank you, Dave. My
All right,
pleasure.
everybody, take care. We'll see you on the next one. Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.